Hello, welcome to today's webinar, Programmatic Digital Advertising for Higher Education. Before we get started, my name is Hayley. I'm a digital strategist here at Converge. My background, about 5 years experience in digital advertising. The two last years really specific to higher education. I do everything from search engine marketing to LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook advertising for our different higher ed clients.
Hi, I'm Lindsay. I'm also a digital strategist here with Converge. I actually started off in higher education marketing, and then through the MBA program, I found my way into digital and have pursued that since.
So just kind of a back story with, why programmatic digital advertising? Why is this webinar titled that? So we pulled out this quote. Within Google's search trends analysis from this quarter, it is highlighted that while the search queries of prospective students are not becoming any more closely aligned with individual university brands, they are in fact becoming much more specific in terms of location and field of study. This article also talks about how the student decision has really moved online and education-related searches are increasing year after year. But brand searches are down and searches for specific studies and degree types are rising. So we see this effect in search engine marketing. Now your keywords really need to be focused on the degree and field of study. We've seen similar trends across like Facebook and LinkedIn where you really need to be program specific with your advertising using different messaging and different targeting to reach that different audience. So in today's discussion, we're going to talk about where to get started. You know you need to be using digital advertising as part of your recruitment strategy, but maybe you don't know where to start. So we'll kind of walk you through different things to think about there. Planning your budget, whether it's big or small. We'll show you some tools and resources to help you plan for your budget and also strategies that work well for particular programs and different budgets. We'll also talk about the different channels and features, kind of dive into the most popular channels, talk about each pros and cons and maybe some new features that you aren't taking advantage of and maybe should be. We'll move into landing pages, kind of program and conversion focused landing pages. Using reporting data, I think everyone knows that that's a key thing to being successful in digital advertising, but maybe you don't know what metrics to look at. So we'll take a deep dive into that. And then we'll finish up with a Q&A, so feel free to submit your questions via the webinar platform, or you can use our hashtag digital ads higher ed. So getting started. First thing here at Converge, when we have new clients, we like to kind of go through kind of a kickoff call and kind of a discovery process. So these are the questions we ask. So we will first ask what programs. Is it one specific program, a group of new online degrees? Maybe you're trying to reach the transfer market, but kind of narrow down what you're trying to accomplish. Think about from those programs, who is your target audience? What is their age? What is their geographical location? What education background do they have? What companies are they working for? And what are their interests? Next, you want to think about what is your budget? Do you have minimal spend? Is it flexible based on kind of a cost per lead number? Do you have a pretty healthy budget and are just trying to figure out how to allocate it across different programs and different channels? Also, if you don't know this, we'll kind of talk about more of how to estimate this because we know that a lot of you probably have to report to a higher up and provide recommendations on budgets. So we'll kind of talk about more of how to kind of determine that. But next you'll want to say, what is your goal? Are you trying to drive leads or trying to promote brand awareness? We see those as the two most common ones. But you could also just be trying to drive traffic to your website, get more followers on social media, or even get more, YouTube video views.
So now that we have kind of a basic walkthrough of the process and laying out the scope of your campaigns, the next basic question, as Hayley mentioned, is very often what the budget planning is. How do we scope out budget? There are several methods in doing this, and we'll walk through a couple different steps in that. The first real step and the first thing a lot of people want to understand is what's the competitor spend like? You can get a competitor baseline using tools like SpyFu to really get an understanding what your competitors' grouping is spending on their ad campaigns, their paid campaigns, and really this gives you a great 95% confidence interval to just say they're spending somewhere in this range. While this isn't completely 100% accurate, it gives you a wonderful range to be able to say, I know I should be looking at the spend in this type of area. If you go more specific on your internal data, you can use previous campaign information, previous campaign data, to really estimate the cost per lead type of budget. And what you'd be using to estimate this type of budget is going through and saying, okay, well, I know I have a certain amount of leads that I'd like to get, that lead goal, and I know I have an estimated cost per lead. Simple multiplication can tell you, well, the lead goal times the estimated cost per each will give me my overall budget. Now, you can get a little bit more advanced by saying, okay, well, what is the total volume? What if I wanted to buy all of the clicks available per the Google search, or how many searches there were in that month, right? So you have to bring in the variables of, okay, how many monthly searches or impressions will there be for any group of keywords associated to the program that I'm going to be advertising? Once we estimate our average cost per click to be, and what's our estimated click-through rate? From that, we can kind of calculate the budget out and estimate what the budget would be if we were to purchase all of the clicks in that category. Now, going a little bit further in, you can continue to add more variables. And I want to just say the caveat is the more variables you add, the more chance for error. But what I like to do here is make sure that I'm increasing all the amount of accounting for all the different variables so that I can really identify the points of interest I'd like to be focused on as we move throughout the budget planning process. So things we'll look at in this type of estimate would be the number of programs we're advertising, the allocation we're providing for each platform, the average CPC again, the estimated click-through rate, our conversion rate. And it really builds down into a formula that looks like this. Now, I know I have an old algebra professor or teacher that's turning in their grave right now just because this formula can be simplified down much further. But like I said, I like to keep this separated out so that we can really identify the different components and how they're interplaying with each other. So what if we were to walk through an example? So we know we'd like to receive 20 leads over the course of a month for a graphic design program. We're going to be spending all of this money on Google AdWords, and it's going to be the only campaign that we're working on. We know that our keywords has around a monthly search of 165,000, and we estimate our cost per click to be $15. Additionally, we're going to have our estimated click-through rate of 0.8% and a conversion rate of 5%. If you go through and basically, again, plug in the numbers as if you were doing an algebra problem, you solve for B, and you wind up getting a budget of $6,000.
Now, if you're like me, you don't want to do that type of math. So there are other tools kind of out there that can help you plan for your budget. Google Keyword Planner is a great tool to get different traffic forecasts and budget recommendations based on a list of keywords. You might be thinking, I don't know what keywords I want to use yet, but this tool is also helpful for that. You can search for new keyword ideas and ad group ideas. Facebook and Twitter also have estimators on their platforms. So if you're familiar with how these platforms work, and we'll kind of dive into that more, you can select a variety of different targeting options, geographically, age, different demographics, and plugging in a budget, it should tell you how many people you should expect to reach out of the total number you could reach. So definitely take advantage of those tools as well.
So now that we've covered budget, let's take a little bit deeper dive into some of the channels and strategies that will be available to you as you go and plan out your overall campaign strategy. The first and the big one is Google AdWords search. It's the bread and butter, the thing that most often comes to mind when people think of paid advertising through digital platforms. Now, this is great because it's used frequently, and that's one of the reasons that it does come to mind most commonly, because We know that it's the most popular search engine with 67 to 80%, depending on what metric or report you're looking at, of the overall search volume in the United States. You already know that the user who's coming to this platform and saying actively searching has intent, right? You're buying a keyword that people are going to be searching, and they're actively saying, hey, I have this issue, raising their hand, can someone help me? Again, because Google has such a large search volume, they've actually built out this platform. It's an extremely robust platform with a lot of different metrics and key performance indicators that you'll be able to report on throughout this digital advertising process. And it's extremely in-depth down to what you'd like to be tracking based off of your different goals, whether that is brand awareness or conversions, as Hayley mentioned, the two big ones that you usually see. Now, on the downside of this, because Google is so popular, we do see a lot of competition. A lot of people are coming in and saying that they would like to be involved in this type of activity. So you have to be good at it. But there is a learning curve because of the robust platform. There is a time that it must take to really get to know what you're doing with Google AdWords and being able to set these campaigns up and execute well. Some of the more interesting features with Google AdWords are some of these ad extensions. Once you do build upon that learning curve and you're able to build out some of your ads, you can take what looks like somewhat ordinary ad up top with 5 online MBA degrees, actually a normal search, and just continue to add upon that with different call-out features, which you see on the bottom, top 20 business schools, live and self-paced online degree, study abroad around the world. So the ranking feature, ranking extension, as well as additional extensions that can help you build out. And then lastly, when we're talking about a great feature that will allow you to be able to bid upon certain segments of your audience that are performing well based off of what you'd like them to see. If we know that visitors that are coming in from around 50 miles of campus are actively engaged in requesting information, we can increase the amount that we're willing to spend on those visitors because they are doing what we'd like. Same thing between platforms. We can just say, hey, people who are coming in on mobile devices are a little bit more engaged, a little bit more involved in completing the goals we'd like them to accomplish.
Next, the Google Display Network. If you're not familiar with what it is, it's kind of a network of 2 million websites affiliated with Google that you can place different ads on. So a variety of different ad specs. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with seeing the ads. But a big pro of that is because it's such a large network, you can reach 90% of internet users, Google says. So a very large audience. When comparing it to search engine advertising, you can usually get a lot cheaper cost per clicks. That's just because the targeting isn't as focused as keyword targeting. The different targeting options are, contextual targeting, where Google's finding different websites based on your keywords and placing them there. There's also, you can pick a variety of topics of websites or target users by their interest. Along with similarly to Google AdWords search, there's a very robust platform, and with that you can get really detailed reporting like Ryan was saying. On the con side, from my experience, the transparency of the targeting options isn't the best. Google doesn't come out and say, based on these targeting options, you should expect to see your website or your ad on these specific websites. So just be careful with that and make sure to check that regularly. And then also, compared to search, users have less intent. Just because you're targeting them by their demographics or by what websites they're viewing, they're not specifically searching for your program, so the interest might not be there. A good pro for the Google Display Network, or a good feature, is InMarket Audiences. Google describes this as reaching users who are actively researching and comparing products and services like yours. So how Google does this is they look at your search and browsing history of a user to determine if you're in the market. So if you're viewing a lot of web pages about higher education, for an example, they might see that you are in the market for an education, and that way you will receive more ads related to higher education. Next, let's talk about YouTube. I think we've all are familiar with the different YouTube advertisements. The pro is the placement of, or the different options for placement. You can target users by how they're searching, when you're watching a video, the related ads that show up next to it, and then even the in-stream ads. It's great for brand awareness. If you're trying to get video views, it's a great way to be there. And similar to Google AdWords, it has very detailed reporting because it actually is integrated with the Google AdWords platform. Some of the cons, while it could be good for brand awareness, it's not good for lead generation. It is solely, getting more views and kind of promoting your brand. It's not really targeted towards generating leads. And because it's part of the Google option, it's similar to the display network in the transparency of the targeting options. It's not always there. Just because you're selecting these features doesn't mean you're going to know what exact channels and videos your ads will be seen on. The Yahoo Bing network, kind of similar to Google as far as ad placements. You'll sometimes see more space on the top and the right, and you'll see ads on the bottom. But overall, I think pros with this is there's a lot less competition there, from my experience, and also increased performance when it comes to click-through rate, cost per click, and cost per lead. Some cons is the search volume. Because it's not as used as Google, you won't see that search volume. So if you're targeting kind of a very specific degree in a small area, I wouldn't expect to see great performance there. And then also inconsistencies I see as kind of a con. There's some programs and markets that the program or my advertising does really well, and then sometimes it just unexpectedly doesn't do very well. A great feature for Bing is it has a exact kind of import feature where you can upload your exact Google AdWords campaign. So if you're contemplating trying out Bing but know how much time and effort you put into setting up your Google AdWords campaign, keep this in mind. It literally takes probably about 5 seconds. You might have to change a few features and make a few edits, but overall it's very simple to use. For Facebook advertising, I think everyone knows that this is probably the most used social media platform, and you'll typically see the ad placements in the newsfeed or on that right-hand side. Some pros is that there's a variety of targeting strategies. If you see this screenshot to the left, you can increase conversions, boost your post, promote your page, get people to view your videos. The targeting options are endless there. You can also target users down to very specific demographics, such as education level, field of study, where they work, pages they like, their income level even. Compared to search, you also see a lot lower cost per clicks and cost per leads here, especially from my experience. But some of the cons, again, just because a user, you're targeting them by their demographics, doesn't mean that they have as much of intent as they would if they were searching for your program. And also something to note is younger audiences are moving away from this platform. A great feature for Facebook is custom and lookalike audience. They are kind of advanced targeting with list uploads where you can kind of target users based on their email addresses and phone numbers. So for an example, what you could use this for is importing a list of your prospects' emails and targeting them with kind of that apply messaging. You could import a list of business graduates and maybe market your MBA program to them. Or maybe you could import a list of your current students and use Facebook to find a lookalike audience. For LinkedIn advertising, as I think all of you probably know, it's the largest professional network, so it's great for that kind of older, more professional audience. Very similar to Facebook with the targeting options. You can target user by education level, field of study, job industry, the different LinkedIn groups that they're a member of. Another great pro of this is users are in that professional mindset. Typically, a lot of them are looking for career advancement or looking for a change. So that chance of that user being interested in furthering their education is pretty likely. Some cons is the visibility of the ad placements. They're not as prevalent as they are in other social media platforms. Again, users have less intent. Just because you're targeting them by their demographics doesn't mean they're actually interested in furthering their education. And it can be a very limited audience. You aren't going to be able to find that undergrad high school market there. You kind of have to use this exclusively for graduate targeting. Some different features to take note of: sponsored in-mail, display advertising, lead accelerator. The sponsored in-mail is personalized kind of conversion-driven emails to a very target audience. This is getting more and more popular, I think, especially in the higher education world. Display advertising kind of works similar to the Google network, but you're able to kind of reach users on the LinkedIn platform and outside of the LinkedIn platform as well, but still using that same kind of LinkedIn targeting options. And then lead accelerator is, I think, pretty new still. It's kind of a lead generation solution that helps clients, I think, engage more known prospects and also kind of anonymous users on their website by kind of showing them customized workflow ads. So you'll see in this example at the bottom, it's kind of like remarketing in a way, but instead of kind of showing them that same message, they kind of go into a workflow where one week they might be seeing the next message, and then the following week they'll be seeing another message. So they kind of go through a workflow. So something definitely worth checking out if that sounds interesting to you. Twitter advertising, like Facebook and LinkedIn, a very great amount of targeting options, as well as a variety of strategies. You can kind of try to get leads, promote your posts, increase a following, or even get more installs for your app. The targeting options are a little more unique. You can target a user by what device they're using, what hashtags they use in their tweets, who they follow, TV shows they watch, and they also offer some new behavior targeting where you might be able to target users by what retail brands that they interact with on Twitter. So something that's really cool about Twitter. But some cons, again, users have less intent with just demographic targeting. And compared to Facebook, limited targeting options. Twitter doesn't designate profile fields that ask users for their age. So some of the targeting options aren't there where you can kind of hone in on your audience, but still overall some unique targeting options there. A cool feature to kind of point out with Twitter are the lead generation cards. This is how Twitter describes it. They make it easy for people to express interest in what you offer. Use these cards to capture user data directly from within a tweet. So how these work is if someone would see this ad in their newsfeed, and if they click that Learn More call to action in the blue right there, Twitter will automatically grab their name, their user kind of handle, and then their email address. So if you play a numbers game with your lead generation and you need to, have a good amount for your kind of admissions team to work through, it's great for getting a good volume of leads, but keep in mind that just because someone's clicking on that, they might be interested, but once they get to the, page, the interest isn't always there. So sometimes you'll see the quality of leads suffer, but it's something definitely worth testing out.
So one of the other channels we focus on is retargeting, and this is something that actually is available on a variety of platforms. And we believe, actually when we set up campaigns and using a remarketing tag across the entirety of your site and implementing that early up front so that you can take advantage of retargeting as you go through and develop your different strategies. Now, one of the great benefits of retargeting is that the way it works is because users have visited a certain page on your site or they've visited a landing page, you can identify them in a list and retarget based off of that action. So we know they have interest because they've already gone to that page. So sometimes you will see a variety of lower cost per clicks and cost per leads because these are people who are already interested in this type of material. They visited you once. Now, the downside of this, very often we get the comments that this has somewhat of a creep factor, right? Users are a little bit freaked out that you're following them around the internet and that they have this negative connotation towards why do you know I've done this and how do you keep following me wherever I go? One of the cool features with retargeting is being able to follow up with your search campaigns and build upon your search campaigns using retargeting around that set of keywords you're already bidding on with search and following up again on a secondary search. So with the variety of channels and the variety of platforms we've talked about, we're getting a number of users to look at our ads. But what happens when somebody clicks on that? And what happens when that user actually gets to one of our landing pages? What are some of the best practices we can follow to make sure they convert once they're there? So first and foremost, we want to make sure the users know where they got to is where they were looking to go, and that they know what they should be doing once they get there. So that really means to us having a clear headline that really says, this is where you're at, you are in the right place, and a clear goal, a clear call to action that says, this is what you'd like to be doing. This is where that additional information is going to be coming from. Learn more, request information. So the big points is that we don't want to have that static kind of submit button down at the bottom. We want to make sure this is kind of an active, engaging process. We want to make sure that we're keeping this interesting, keeping this involved. To go along with the headline and the call to action, we want to make sure we're supporting those items with kind of the compelling copy and imagery that provides the users the justification for submitting their information. They're giving up a little bit of themselves when they say, yes, I'm willing to give you my email, my name, in order to exchange information with you. In order to do that, we often have to provide a little bit of information to get some buy-in. This is where we're able to tell the story of what the student can expect, provide some success stories and some contextual relevance to what a student would expect from this type of information, this type of program. And lastly, and extremely significant with there's certain design and search trends, as we see the increasing rate of mobile searches and users being more comfortable searching the internet, interacting with the internet on their phones, their mobile devices. This also comes to our requesting information online, so we'll make sure that our designs for our landing pages are responsive in nature so we can still capture that mobile traffic.
Next, you really want to have user-friendly forms. Kind of the idea behind this is the shorter the form, the better, the more likely they are to fill out the fields. So only request the information you actually need. Indicate what fields are required, and then also implement inline validation. So if they skip a field, they know where they skipped it and know where to go back. I don't think there's anything more annoying than trying to fill out a form, clicking the button thinking you have everything ready to go, and then finding out that you made an error, skipped a step, and have to go all the way back. You should also focus kind of on a conversion-focused design. This is a screenshot from unbounce.com, which have kind of a great landing page platform. But what they do is they kind of really focus the design around driving that conversion. So your form should stand out and should appear above the fold. It should be encapsulated and kind of contrast from the rest of your page. And also maybe directional cues so a user knows where to go to next and their eye kind of follows that process. Also, kind of most importantly, you want to have a thank you page. Instead of just a confirmation dialog box that comes up, you should direct a user to a unique thank you page that has a unique thank you URL. For an example, your page could be titled school.edu/MBA, and that thank you page should have a separate URL saying kind of thank you after it. This helps us track Google Analytics information. Anytime someone gets to that thank you page, we know that that's a conversion. And this also is where you put that conversion tracking on for so many different platforms. So AdWords, Bing, Facebook, Twitter, all offer conversion tracking. So you place this on this page, and that's how those platforms record conversions. This is also a great way to tell users what's going to happen next, whether it's an email, someone's going to be reaching out, and also gives them an option to engage further. If someone's requesting information, there's never a time they're more interested than at that moment of time. So providing that phone number and that email address where they can reach out to someone directly, and then also opportunity to connect on, social media or reading kind of your blog. So kind of just to recap best practices for landing pages, the goal of the page should be clear. The user should know what the page is about and what you want them to do within, 3 seconds of being on that page. You should include compelling copy and images and make the page easy to skim. Students should be able to see themselves there, so no stock photos, and also helps you stay authentic to your brand. Have that responsive format. Responsive is going to be key. Mobile use will vary across, I think, different platforms, but it is increasing everywhere, so make sure that that's intact there. User-friendly forms only require what you need and make the form easy to complete. Conversion-focused design, make sure that that is the focal point of your campaign or of your landing page. And then have that thank you page. If you want to track conversions in Google Analytics data to that thank you page, this is a must.
All right, so we've planned out our budget, we've strategized on the different channels and platforms we're going to be working on, and if we've done everything correctly, gotten users to submit their information through a compelling landing page and gotten them to an excellent thank you page. So what now? Our job doesn't end after the lead submits. We have to make sure we're reporting upon this data. But there are different reporting tactics for different strategies. So if our strategy is to increase conversions, request for information, increase leads to an application, that type of information, we're going to be focusing on conversion count, the number of people actually doing this action. The conversion rate, which is going to be the number of people that are doing this action over the number of people who would possibly do this action, how fast or what's the potential for people actually taking that action. And then the cost per conversion. How much are we spending on each one of those people who did the action we'd like to take? So the nice thing, as we mentioned with Google and a number of other platforms, is that this data is very often readily available to you. Very much called out in specific columns that you can track for each campaign, and actually down to the keyword specifically, to make sure that we are really converting upon the successful metrics we'd like to be looking at. Now, what if our conversion, or our goal rather, is slightly different? What if we're looking to gain brand awareness? Well, we're going to have to be measuring a different set of performance indicators. We'll be looking at impressions, so the number of people who saw the ad, how many clicks we got through that ad, and when those people clicked, how engaged were they? What was the quality of traffic? And how did that quality of traffic compare to, say, our organic or our direct traffic, the people who already know us? So when you go into tools like Facebook, you'll see a large amount of impressions, almost 1.5 million people who have seen this ad, and the clicks to it being a ratio or percentage of that. It's 7,000 in this case. But we'll also want to take a look at that actions. How many people liked this post, shared this post, commented on it, and took an additional action to engage with that ad? And then what about from the analytics perspective? Going into analytics and measuring up our paid search against our organic search, trying to measure the quality of traffic we're getting against the quality of traffic we're getting organic and through organic and direct means. One of the things you'll see very often is that your bounce rate is going to be a lot higher But there are different things you can walk between the number of pages viewed per session, the time on site, and trying to compare those, see how that matches up against that additional information, people who already know you.
You can also use third-party platforms. This one is a Quizeo. This is what we kind of use here at Converge. But what we really like about this is it lets us compare performance across different programs and also across different channels. So for what might work well for your MBA program might not work well for your Master's in Education program. So this is a great way to kind of view that channel by channel basis for your different programs. Again, you can view this data directly on the different platforms. Bing and Google allow you to view reporting data down to the keyword or the ad or even the geographical area you're targeting. And then also Google Analytics. It's a great way to review kind of overall data as well. You can use this by setting up goals, segmenting different traffic, and you can kind of view conversions in this way as well. So definitely keep that in mind. And use all of these, I think, together for different things. Next, we thought it'd be a great opportunity to walk you through some examples, kind of how we approach different types of programs, what strategies we've seen work good for different things. So this first example, say we have a client with an MBA. It's a hybrid MBA. They offer online courses, they have an on-campus like evening format. They are really looking to target that college grad audience, specifically that kind of graduated with that business focus. Because it is a hybrid program, they do want to stay local. 60-mile radius of their campus is what they think is ideal. Their budget is minimal, and they want to drive leads. So how I would approach that is, due to the minimal budget, I would choose to go with Bing. AdWords cost per clicks are pretty costly, but you still want to be able to capture that search traffic, so Bing is a great thing to test out. I would look at LinkedIn or Facebook, just depending on the flexibility of your budget. Maybe try out one and then try out the other, but use that to target by industry and degree. And then also use a retargeting method, whether that's on Facebook or AdWords. It's a great way to stay in that user's mind because, again, a lot of people need time to really make that first commitment to requesting information about your program and connecting with your school. The next example is an online RN to BSN program. The target audience is we're looking for registered nurses. Because we're online, we can target multiple states. Our budget is intermediate, and we're trying to drive conversions. How I would approach this is starting out with AdWords. I've seen this program work pretty well in search for AdWords, and by doing this, it really helps you kind of capture that search traffic. And then if you aren't seeing the best performance, I would definitely recommend testing out Bing. Facebook, I've seen this program work really well on Facebook. You can target the users by their RN job title or degree specific to RN, so that's a great strategy there. And then again, using that retargeting strategy as well. Next program, an undergraduate kind of animation degree. Their target audience is high school students. They want to target in multiple states. Their budget is pretty flexible. It's just kind of based on more of a cost per lead kind of number. And their goal is to drive conversions, but to also create some brand awareness. So I would look at AdWords and Bing just to capture that search traffic for those searching for an animation degree. And then kind of based on what performs better, allocate more funds to that. I would be on Twitter, because that's where that younger audience would be. You can target users by their interests and the accounts they follow, so kind of hone in on that animation type of audience. And then I would use YouTube for brand awareness. Use the YouTube video or display ads to target specific kind of animation-related channels and videos there.
So what about a little bit of an oddball program, right? The on-campus Master in Arts in Museum Studies. with the target audience being museum professionals who are looking to kind of advance their career, move a little bit further, those career advancer types, typically focusing in the northeastern states of the United States with a very minimal budget, but they really do want to drive conversions. How do we approach this? Well, because there are 148 museum studies programs, but there's information out there, but the regional search, I mean, if you search specifically for masters in museum studies, I think there's 24 searches a month that actually have that goal, that search query itself. So one of the things we can look at doing is making sure, because we're looking at career advancers, people who are already in the museum profession, looking at Facebook and specifically LinkedIn and targeting by their industry or degree type. If they have a related undergraduate degree that is associated with this demographic of museum professionals, right? And again, continuing to follow up with retargeting, reminding of the user of their interest as they went through that program.
So in review, we hope you kind of walked away with, thinking about what questions to ask and what resources to think about before getting started. Strategies that work best for different audiences and programs when thinking about search and display. Hopefully you took away some knowledge of some features you might not have experience with or have heard of. Hopefully you kind of have a better idea of how to create that conversion-focused landing page and know a little bit more about what types of metrics to look at with your reporting data to make smarter decisions.
So there are some additional resources I'd like to make sure we note before jumping into questions here. First, we have some excellent blogs available to you around digital advertising as well as other topics. Additionally, we like to make sure we're providing FACs, our videos that provide some great information on how-tos or additional setups. Lastly, we like to make sure we remind you of the upcoming webinar, Communication to Assist Students to Completion. Really, this is making sure we're focusing on the communication flows, whether we're looking at emails or phone communications, talking to that prospective student in a way that enhances the user path down the enrollment process, that user funnel, you would say. Lastly, I also like to make sure we remind everybody of Converge 2015. 2014 was excellent. This year we're going to be in New Orleans. We have excellent speakers coming up from Moz, HubSpot, and Google. It's going to be an excellent time. I really encourage everyone to look into Converge 2015. And now we'll jump into Q&A. Okay, so we've gotten a couple questions that have come in throughout the process here. The first question is actually a really good question, and it relates to the use of email lists in the Facebook uploading email lists to Facebook and how that relates to FERPA laws. Because FERPA laws allows for the use of directory type of information, we haven't had any concerns with uploading email lists to Facebook, though that might be something on a campus-by-campus basis you check.
Yeah. Another question we have here is, what is a good cost per conversion? Again, this will vary by channel and by program, but I would say different channels to think about. AdWords, I would say probably in the $300 to $500 range per lead. Bing, I typically see lower than that, anywhere from $100 to $400, but it varies. Like I said, I think Bing can be a little inconsistent there. Facebook, 100 to 300, maybe even lower that depending on the program. Twitter, kind of same range, and LinkedIn, maybe similar to Bing in that $200 to $400 range. But again, these are all very dependent on the program and kind of the geographical targeting.
So another question that builds off of that, and it is a great question, how do you estimate click-through rate or conversion rate? A lot of it is based off of historical data, previous campaigns that we've run, experience, but there are also estimation tools that can say, based off of the industry, we know that certain programs are going to be a little bit more difficult. But again, it relies a lot back on that historical data and past experience.
Yeah, and speaking of conversion rate, another question, what is a good conversion rate? I would say with any search advertising in higher ed, I've seen from like 3 to 6% is usually the norm. I would aim for that. But I have seen it a lot higher. I think if you're very specific with your keywords and it's a very kind of niche program, you might see higher click-through rates there. But thinking about different display advertising and social media, I would say you'll see a much lower conversion rate, maybe more like 1 to 2%.
So another question that comes in is, how much time will it take to set up and manage my campaigns? Setup, it's going to vary widely based on the number of programs you have, in detail you're going into with call-outs and different extensions and different features available in different platforms. But when it comes to management, 5 hours a week, I think, would be a reasonable estimation for continual kind of upkeep and management moving forward.
Yep, I would agree with that, Ryan. Another question, what channel will get me the most bang for my buck? It's going to vary by program and figuring out what your target audience is using the most as far as social media and search. But I would say, as far as if you're looking at just cost per lead metrics, I would say Facebook, definitely I've seen kind of the lower cost per leads there. But again, I think you need to measure those leads all the way through and look at leads to applicants and see what the actual cost per applicant is and make kind of your decision based off of that.
And grouping questions again together just to build upon this, when can I expect to see results? It's a question that we get actually very frequently, and what we like to make sure we notice is that there is a period in time where you're going to see that first data coming in and you can really capitalize on the data that you see, that trend that you see. We start to see results and expect results around 30 days out, that 1 month period.
Another question I have here is kind of walking through an example of a program for Masters in Education and how we would approach targeting that and where should we advertise. Based on my experience, I've seen this program do really well on Facebook. I don't know if teachers are just on Facebook a lot, but I've seen that do really well as far as cost per lead. AdWords search, very competitive, but I've seen some success on Bing, so I would definitely test out that. LinkedIn, while it's good for, I think, the graduate level programs, I haven't seen this do that well on LinkedIn, just from my experience. So I would definitely look at Facebook and some type of search advertising as well.
All right, well, thank you everybody for attending today's webinar. We hope you got a lot of wonderful information. We've included our contact information here. Please feel free to follow up with an email. If you have any additional questions, we'd be happy to connect with you. Thank you again and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.